Hello, AP Stats students. I wanted to go over the Campus Housing FRQ with you. Please ask questions if any of this doesn't make sense. This is a really important topic, as I keep telling you. So we've got a large university which provides housing to 10% of its graduate students to live on campus. And we can see that we think that maybe we need to provide more housing. And so we take a survey to figure out what's going on. So 62 out of 481 say they are looking for campus housing. So we might as well just go ahead and calculate P hat out of that. So P hat is going to be let's see, 62 out of 481, sorry. Get my handy dandy calculator ready to go. And that is 62 out of 481. That is 12.9%, so 0.129. Okay, so again, anytime you see give appropriate evidence to support your recommendation or something like that, anything where they're looking for appropriate evidence, that means we're going to do some kind of hypothesis test. They didn't give me nearly enough space to do all the steps that we're going to need to do, so I'm going to have to do some erasing, probably make a couple of different videos here. So this is going to be a 1 proportion z-test. And let's go ahead and set up our two hypotheses. So HO, we don't need to do anything. P is in fact 0.1. HA, P is we need to adjust our housing, so greater than 0.1, where P equals the proportion of graduate students at the school looking for on-campus housing. Okay, we'll go ahead and check conditions real quick. So random, that was stated right here. Normal. Okay, so here we've got n times p is equal to 481 times 0.1. Remember, we're getting that straight out of the null hypothesis. So 48.1. N times 1 minus p is going to be 481 minus 48.1. So that is 432.9. Okay, since both are greater than 10, conditions met. And independent, it's a large university, so we have to assume there are more than, or at least, 4,810 grad students at the school. And at a large university, that's a fairly good bet, I would say. Okay, so those are the conditions. I'm going to go ahead and erase what I've got here because we need more space. And so, you can always go back and look at this if you need to. Okay, so now to do the math, I will go ahead and just rewrite HO is P equals 0.10. And HA is that it's greater than 10, 0.10. Okay, and P hat was 0.129. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to build myself a curve based on the idea that the null is true. So if the null is true, we get 0.1 at the center. We have a standard deviation of P hat. That is going to be 0.1 times 0.9 over the sample size of 481, and we'll take the square root. Okay, so 0.1 times 0.9 divided by 481, and then I'm going to take the square root of the result. I get a standard deviation of 0.014. Now that's rounded pretty generously, so if you rounded this differently, there is the potential that we get a different answer. That's a decimal point, wow. So this is P, this is P, actually that should be 1 there, shouldn't it? P plus sigma sub P hat, and let's go ahead and place our value, 0.129, on this curve. So here's P hat is 0.129. This is our rejection region. Sorry, that's not the rejection region, that's the p-value. Okay. It did not say what our significance level is here, so we're going to assume alpha equals 0.05, and we're going to go ahead and find the p-value. So the p-value is going to be normal CDF from 0.129 to infinity with a mean of 0.1 and a standard deviation of 0.014, giving me a p-value of, actually have to do some math now, so bear with me. That's good, 0.1, 0.019. Small, that is a small p-value. So our conclusion, or let's just say like this, with a p-value of 0.019 and alpha equal 0.05, we reject HO and conclude the proportion of students, of grad students seeking on-campus housing is greater than 10%. You know, a good thing to do here is to maybe say of all grad students at this school, seeking on-campus housing is greater than 10%. That's just a little more specific. You're providing more context, and that's never a bad thing. Okay, so in addition to the 481 grad students who responded to the survey, 19 did not. If the 19 had responded, is it possible the recommendation would have changed? Now, we've seen a question like this before, and the idea is we're going to throw all of these people into the same kind of pot here. So, in other words, in this case, we had conclusive evidence that the percentage of students looking for on-campus housing was greater than 10%. The way that could change is if the majority of these 19 responded against wanting housing. So let's assume they did. So that means we still have the what was it? Sorry. The 62 who said they were looking for on-campus housing. Now we have 500 total students. So 62 out of 500 is the new p-hat. Okay, so 62 out of 500, that gives me a p-hat of 12.4%. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the same curve and I'm going to figure out the p-value with that. So p-value for new p-hat is going to equal normal CDF 0.124 infinity 0.1, 0.014. Let's calculate that real quick. That gives me a p-value of 0.043. So the answer is no. The p-value is still below alpha, less than alpha. So we still conclude we need more housing. Okay, that's it. I hope that makes sense. As always, ask questions if you got them, and I will see you soon.